What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the reviews for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They are out, and they are absolutely insane. Now, one thing I want to do, and I just want to kind of be honest, in the beginning here. So I tried to not look too far or too hard into, new gameplay, right? Honestly, even with these reviews, I read as many as I could. I'm really trying to avoid. I'm actually afraid of even typing things into YouTube, right? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review. I wasn't looking at the suggestions. I'm trying to be as careful as possible because with the reviews out does absolutely mean that the Game Clips of the world or McFire Ice, I don't know, all these channels, right, that do the entire thing. I'm sure it's gonna happen. Within the next couple days, the big story things are gonna be out there. I'm terrified of that. And so I'm just trying to be extremely careful. So I do want to talk about the scores in general or the reviews in general because this is an incredibly, and I wanted to predict the score. In my head, I was thinking 89 to a 91. That would have been my prediction. 93 based off 114 scores. Now, the lowest scores are 8s. There is nothing below an 8.0, and you have a couple sites that haven't given scores yet. Polygon, Kotaku, actually some of our favorites, right? Now, honestly, I think Polygon specifically, it doesn't sound all that positive. So will that bring it down? Will they give it like a 7.5 or a 7? I'm not quite sure, but lowest scores 8s. I mean, there are a ton, too many to actually count, probably like 25 plus 9s, and then you have a lot of perfect scores. I mean, honestly, this game is getting higher scores than I thought it would. Now, scores aren't everything, and we're kind of here partially so I can tell you the scores, but then also, okay, well, what are they saying? The hundreds, right? The perfect scores. Not a lot of bad, at all. In fact, there were some review sites that said there's nothing really negative to talk about, at all. I think when you get into the 9s and the 8s, you start to see what maybe some of the, if there are problems in this game, right? You could see what they are based off the 9s and the 8s. So what I got from these reviews, in terms of probably an overwhelming positive, is the combat. I didn't see whether it was 8s, 8.5s, 9s, so on. The combat was outrageously good. Now, the higher the score, the more perfect or it's the best, JRPG combat system of all time. I was seeing that kind of stuff, right? So the higher you go, the more of a perfection it is. But even the lower scores, and lower, again, meaning 8s, right? Even those were talking very, very highly about the combat. Okay, so one thing I want to throw in next. So all positives, combat, right? Let's go kind of the other side of things. Now, not all negatives, but I feel like if there was a universal negative, it was either the padding, if that's what you want to call it, side missions, side content. When you go in the lower scores, the 8s, 8.5s, right? The side content is some of the negatives. In fact, maybe some of the only negatives that you'll see, okay, is that maybe there's too much there or, they kind of went into a wrong direction with that. Not that there's too much. Well, I guess kind of a mix. I did see some reviews talk about it's a mix of the quality isn't there, but also the quantity. You didn't need as much as you had. Higher scores, they seemingly didn't mind it, right? So definitely, I mean, look, we talk about this all the time. Reviews, I mean, it's their opinion. Their opinion versus your opinion. So when you get the game, you'll have your say, and that's why I always go based off of the eye test, right? How I see a game. But if you're just looking for quick impressions, right? What other people that played the game early said, this is what they said. Combat, outrageously good. Side missions, definitely more of the mix thing. And honestly, I'll say this. The only other mix that I saw was performance. Visuals, graphics, whatever you want to, say in that way. That was something I did see come up a few times, that optimization or just how well the game looks. That's something that, and I'll be honest, the demo definitely had some issues. And people have talked or had talked, right, based off of quality and performance mode, right? So I think we probably could have seen that one coming. It definitely seems like it was, a thing in the base game as well. So those would probably be the two most mixed things. But I'll say this, even the positive scores, or the higher you go, there is a lot of praise for how the game looks. And even the lower scores that talked about, again, the performance and stuff, they do mention, there's a ton of great moments. There's a ton of times where the game looks stunning, looks unbelievable. But, there's also times where it looks like the other end, right? So just to throw that in. And then story, well, again, I got to be real. So I was purposely trying to avoid, any time that they mention story. The highest scores I saw so many things of, again, like the best game of the year, one of the better, JRPGs we ever had, etc., right? I have seen a few scores, whether it was 8, I think also, weirdly enough, Kotaku, well, it's not even weird, Kotaku, right? There was a couple of them that talked about the story is going to be divisive. It's going to split people, and if you like 7 Remake, you may or may not like, Rebirth. So again, the story is such a big part of this game. It's not something I'm going to look too far into. It probably comes down to what they changed, because I did see a lot of talk of they absolutely showed respect. This game does show respect to the original game, and then there are changes, here and there. So, I guess maybe it just depends on that one. Another thing of universal praise, though, in regards to, I guess, closely related to story, characters, and also the world. So many reviews talked about just kind of being a part of the world and wanting to save the world because they've been a part of it now, for so long, so many hours in the last 2 games. The characters, a lot of praise of just the adventure that these individuals go on and the relationship with each other. That, I would say that might be, besides combat, the thing that I saw from top to bottom, whether they didn't give scores, 8s, 10s, right, all the way through. The characters, the world, just the sense of adventure and getting from beginning, middle, end. Even if there were bumps along the road or, along the way, it's still that kind of element of it stood out. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.